are getting a little bit more too dependent on AI.
There's a few things, which is I think with AI that you don't need to be an outsider.
As an immigrant, you have the capacity to hear and see problems in multiple languages and multiple experiences.
I'm lucky that I have a good group of very tight peers, particularly a couple of friends that I can go to and talk about personal issues as well, right? Life issues. You look different. Our accents are different. I'll talk about my accent in a second, which I had to overcome when I was in college. Your food smells different. Everything is different. And you know that the only way you're going to make that forward step, just one step forward every single day, is to learn, evaluate, and adapt. If you were born into the culture, it's second nature. If you were born out of the culture, i.e., an immigrant who's coming in, you learn to adapt. And in a world where things change really fast, in an entrepreneurial world, you're going to skate to where the puck is going. You can see what's happening, and you're able to quickly adapt. And you know what? Adaptation is survival.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Immigrant Party. Today we are featuring Mr. Tasso Roumeliotis, co-founder and CEO of Numa. Tasso was raised in Montreal and by Greek immigrant parents. After studying business at McGill University, he began his career at Bain & Company and entered his MBA from Harvard Business School and worked at Caldridge Investment before taking the entrepreneurial leap. He went on to build Location Labs into a technology company that he later was able to sell. The business was profitable enough for 7 consecutive years. It was eventually acquired by another organization. Today, Tasso is building Numa and is pushing to serve customers better when it comes to car dealerships and how they relate to their customers. Tasso, I am so excited really to have you. What can an outsider that is looking from outside inside a business miss now that we're using AI on a daily basis?
There's a few things, which is I think with AI that you don't need to be an outsider. I think it's a pretty easy prompt to get yourself very engaged, and you can ask it directly. You can ask that question directly. Obviously, I think there's a few things. One is just start using the tools. Just live in the tools. I think if you're using it every single day, and I challenge yourself to use it for every single task, and then you see the power of it. So I don't think that you need to be left out at all. It's obviously the interface with prompt-based interface is much more. You don't have to write code. You just speak to it obviously in a human way, and it'll help you solve problems. So I think that's the first thing. I think like just don't be afraid. Like jump right in and have it do all your like ask it all your questions and have it help you do stuff. That's just the first. That's the first thing. I don't think kind of like me being an AI entrepreneur is necessarily something where there's like some secret code that I have that's going to give us like some advantage. I think things change so quickly, and whatever changes helps the lowest common denominator. So like the least experienced person with AI gets much stronger with every new AI release. So that gap actually should be narrowed. So that's kind of my perspective.
I am concerned that our teammates sometimes are getting a little bit more too dependent on AI than actually utilizing their capacity to problem solve. For those entrepreneurs that are struggling with these type of feelings, how should they approach them, and should there be a structure in how you utilize AI in your organization?
Yep, I think everybody leans on it a little bit too much, and it definitely some of your brain challenges aren't as strong. So I think that's an issue. I think there's a few things which it can be really frustrating. First is when the results of the AI is presented to you, and it's going to take you more time to consume it than it took for them to kind of write the prompt. That's a very, very frustrating. So I think compressing your ideas, and from my perspective, one of the things that works really well is you ask somebody to verbally explain what we should do or what problem you're trying to solve, rather than like them sending you an AI output. Okay, because if you have to verbally explain it, that means you have to learn it. You have to teach me what you're talking about. and that forces that intellectual discipline and forces you to narrow, because I'm not going to give you 2 hours for you to read out some AI report. So I think that, like, one of the tricks, if you will, is to have people actually verbally explain.
So, managing teams, what's the one simple little thing you found when it comes to managing teams that was just for you? It was like, oh my gosh, what a break.
I think there's a few things. One is, like, there's the two philosophies that I have regarding how to managing teams, which is, number one is there's a deep, sincere caring for the other person. Like, the other person on your team needs to know that you care about them. You want them to win. You're cheering for them sincerely. It has to be sincere. It can't just be on the surface. It can't be something that your manager told you to say. So you have to have that sincerity of caring for somebody and their personal success, and them as people. And the second thing is, you businesses, startups only succeed if they overperform by 10x. So when you choose to join an organization like ours, you're choosing to take a path of being 10x better, 10x better than the competition, 10x better than all the incumbents. So very demanding. So it's sincerity and caring with lots of demanding. Those are the two core values that, for me, are the essence of great team outputs.
So, there's several ways our conversation can go, but the most important thing that I have to put out is this conversation has to go the way you imagined it in your head. You know what? Let's do that. Let's get started. Start with the background. Tell people who you are, what you've been all about, and let's go.
Okay, great. So I'm Tasso Roumeliotis. I'm one of the founders and chief executive officer at a company called Numa, here in the Bay Area and Silicon Valley. We're an AI company focused on the vertical business of car dealerships, an area that can really use our help to provide just better experiences for customers. It's my second company. My first company was a company called Location Labs. I was the first one to bring GPS and location into the application usage in the United States. So if you ever use GPS, like a Find My Friend on iPhone, to locate your kid, we were the first to do that. So that company I built, I sold that company kind of 2015, and then became an entrepreneur in residence and started Numa. So I'm very much an entrepreneur, tech entrepreneur, obviously here in the Bay Area. I'm actually kind of, I think I have what I would probably consider like a double immigrant experience. I immigrated to the United States from Canada, which is obviously very similar to the United States. My parents were immigrants from Greece. And for me, the foundation of the immigrant experience came from watching them. They left, came to Canada, couldn't get into the United States. My father couldn't get in at the time. So he said, where else can I go? Well, I'm going to go to this cold place called Montreal, Canada, which is where he built his life. And like a lot of immigrants, and this is what I grew up with, they started a little small business, a convenience store. And myself and my three sisters, we were raised in that convenience store. And my parents hadn't gone to college. The thing for us, and like I think my view of kind of the immigrant experience and how that's molded not just me, but also, can you hear me okay, by the way? Did I lose you guys? Okay, good. Okay, good. Something happened. So what was, growing up with my family. So we ran a small business. So it was a convenience store. Convenience store means convenient. So my parents opened the store at 8 a.m. and worked until 11:30 p.m. every single day, 7 days a week for 10 consecutive years. We took half of Christmas off, and other than that, they were working. So that is the life rubric that was handed to me, and that was where you read about work ethic in a book. You actually see your parents do it. And my sisters and I, we had to work. We didn't get paid either. And you run a small business, and like, you're at a cost disadvantage, right? So you have many disadvantages. So part of the reason that immigrants end up running these small businesses is because they have the ability, whether it's the hustle or the kind of the guile, to create these businesses out of success. So I'll give you an example. My mother, who was definitely my entrepreneurial hero, um, she would take her kids to other stores that were selling things below our cost, loss leaders in bigger stores. And when you have a loss leader, typically they say, oh, you can buy, 3 Cokes per person, and she'd bring herself and her 3 kids. So there'd be literally 4 of us, and we all stock up and we bring it back to the store and sell it, and that's how we'd make margin. She knew that the customers, for example, wouldn't come to our store because we were the cheapest price. We weren't. We were the more expensive price. We were there for convenience. So she made us learn every single customer's name. We had to smile when we would greet them by their name, and she would give them Christmas gifts every year. So from there, I learned that when you can't win with capital, you win. You develop other alphas. I saw her do it right in my, right in front of my face, and it was kind of pretty magical to see that. So for me, like that experience, which just became the norm, when you're working every single day for 10 years, you think that's just the way life is. That's the way everybody is.
But as I'm listening to your story, I can hear my mother in my ear, right? And me, my mom is like you, my entrepreneur hero, small business owner who, as soon as she walked through the door and before she walked out, she would always remind you that if you want to be free, you have to be self-employed. That never stopped, right? She just never told you what the work volume looked like, although like your parents, she made you work. I'm curious though. You work every day, that you're not in school, you're at the store. Was there not at a point where, as a current entrepreneur who understands the work environment and understands how tough the demands of running a successful business can be and balancing the people who work in that business, you have the discipline of an immigrant. You have that discipline of, I'm required to be here for 18 hours. I'm going to work 18 hours for the next several weeks if that's what it takes. Is there a place when now you're looking at your team where you're thinking, okay, I'm not just looking for productivity, but I have to balance the two. I have to balance the human aspect of me being in a relationship with you as my team members and allow you the opportunity to recalibrate and to rest so that you can come refreshed? Or is it always a go like mom did?
It's a fantastic question, and I will tell you, as an entrepreneur, it can be a struggle sometimes, because you want your team to be as recharged, as emotionally committed, and as healthy as possible. And sometimes, and this is, I'm guilty of this myself. I'm like, I like to work 7 days a week. I just like to work. And putting that kind of demand is not necessarily what will yield the best outcome for your team. So it is a balance. I think through it every day. I will tell you, when it comes to work, at my first company, we give you a sense, we were about 250 people, like my first company, Location Labs, here in the Bay Area. 70% of the people at that company were immigrants or sons and daughters of immigrants. 70%. One of our core values was immigrant ethic. In fact, I created this term. I called it a TIC. A TIC is think of it, TIK. It's a tough immigrant kid. Okay. Now that tough immigrant kid, and we would, in our all hands, you'll love this, right? In our all hands, we would call it out. It would mean like, hey, you came here, there's no plan B. Your parents said, hey, don't look at what I'm doing. You need to kind of create your own path. Okay. Like as an immigrant, I believe that the immigrant advantage is you've already done the impossible once by coming here, right? The next part of your life is going to be easier. It's you're the one who's going to build it. So it was like part of the core ethos of this company, these TICs, tough immigrant kids. And I would talk to them, and we would connect over like, hey, you remember your parents? You're the first one in your family to go to college, or you came here by yourself. Do you remember, like, anybody tell you your family who loves you the most said, like, look forward, don't look backwards. There's no plan B. And that is an incredible skill and advantage that we had. I think that there's nothing to fall back on.
Tasso, as an immigrant, those fundamental values that you learned from your parents that you brought to the workplace, the work discipline, the consistency, on and on and on. What are some of those things that you learned and promised yourself to implement them without being physically taught? Like, hey, you need to do ABCD. For example, my mom was so big about customer service and how you treat people. And so I knew that she didn't have to tell me about customer service because I saw it. And so I remember when I was new in the US and I was working in a warehouse and I got into it with one of my supervisors, and I thought, the way you spoke to me, I will never allow myself to get to a place where I treat people that way. Thank God that has not happened. So, what are some of those for you?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, I think that that is a very, very similar example. Like my mother would say, look, being friendly and charming people remember how you make them feel. And that's free. That is free currency. Why would you not use it? You have the ability to win people over, and people do business with people that they like. So this concept, and in my first company, we sold our software at the time to the big telecom companies, AT&T, Verizon, Sprint, and T-Mobile. And one of our advantages was that we were not just business partners to our telcos, but we got to know them personally. We cared about their kids. We helped them with their careers. We would do things for them, build presentations that made them look good to their boss. So they know that when they were interacting with you, that it was going to be a good, positive outcome for it. And a lot of times, most of the times, there was no reciprocity required. It's really, really simple. When you play it forward, it does come back. And I think that's one of the things that I learned from my mom. I can't remember how many people would just come back to the store and invite other people just because they liked our family. They were cheering for them. They got that Christmas gift and they knew their names. Those things matter. And it's really easy to do that.
So, Tasso, you must agree with me that you've been very successful in the marketplace.
I like to, I think like I like to compete with myself, but there's been a lot of work, hard work. The first startup, I will tell you, Martin, because I know you're an entrepreneur as well, is always like it was rooted in you know almost going out of business like many times. It was a big struggle, and I did a great team that we built that with. And the second one, once you've had an exit and you've made investors some money, it's much easier. But it's still, you still need to keep that advantage, that alpha. I think in terms of what was instilled and what continues to need to be instilled within, like, even all organizations, in an AI era, is this concept of, like, you always have to find the alpha for your organization. Because as a startup, you're not like, you have to be 10 times, you're typically 100 to 1,000 times smaller than the incumbents. So how are you going to be competitive with them? The only way you can do that is through alpha. So what is your alpha? You're always looking for it. You're not just trying to be as good. You're not trying to be 5 or 10 and 15% better. It's a power law world. And the immigrant advantage, and if you look at, New York Times wrote an article where 80% of the value added in the AI entrepreneurs are immigrants. It's because in a very competitive world where you need this anti-fragility, you need this alpha, we are always figuring out what the best approach is for us to win the market. And that, I think, is a gift.
Is that because as an immigrant, you have the capacity to hear and see problems in multiple languages and multiple experiences? Or is it because we have immigrants that are not entrepreneurs and who have taken excellent careers as employees other places? What is that thing that distinguishes you from another CEO?
Yeah. Look, I think one of the things, I think you just mentioned it right now, which is the ability to adapt. Okay. Think about when you moved here. Think about, I think about myself and my experience. You show up in a country, you look different. Our accents are different. I'll talk about my accent in a second, which I had to overcome when I was in college. Your food smells different. Everything is different. And you know that the only way you're going to make that forward step, just one step forward every single day, is to learn, evaluate, and adapt. Okay? If you were born into the culture, it's second nature. If you were born out of the culture, i.e., an immigrant who's coming in, you learn to adapt. And in a world where things change really fast, in an entrepreneurial world, you can see where you're going to skate to where the puck is going. You can see what's happening, and you're able to quickly adapt. And adaptation is survival. Versus like, well, I've never had to adapt ever in my life. Everything was lined up for me. My parents went to college. I went to this good high school. I went to this good college. I then graduated. I got a job at one of these firms where my friends at the fraternity were, and then I've got an MBA, and then now I'm at a private equity firm. Okay, well, that's a path. For us as immigrants, every single step required observation, analysis, adaptation, and continuing to move forward. And that is what makes entrepreneurs special, that ability to adapt. I'll tell you like just like a little bit of my story, because I followed the path, which is like you go to, I was kind of raised in Canada, and I went to a pretty good university there, and I did everything they told me to do, Martin. They said, get good, study hard, get good grades, and you will get a good job. So I did that, and then I get interviews for all these fancy companies. Every single one, I got all these interviews. I was very proud of myself. And I got rejected from every single one of them. I went through this interview process, and I'm graduating from school, and I'm expecting to get a good job so I can move beyond the subsistence life of my family. And I got rejected from every single firm. Every single firm rejected me. So I reached out to a friend of mine who also, got a lot of interviews, and he got many jobs. And I didn't get a second round interview. And I asked him, his name was George. I said, what, like, be honest with me. You're my friend. Like, and a really good friend is going to be honest with me. Tell me what's wrong with me, because I need to know. And he says, look, Tasso, when you talk, the neighborhood that you're from, this kind of ethnic Greek neighborhood, that accent comes out, and it comes across a little bit, like what, a Bensonhurst, Brooklyn accent would come like. So it doesn't come across as professional, as kind of as, let's say, as Anglo-Saxon as it probably should in a professional context. I'm like, I had no idea. I recorded myself, and I'm like, okay, I need to improve. So I was down for a bit. Like, you take that punch, and it's a very big blow, because you're like, what am I going to do now? I didn't get the jobs that I was expecting. So, for the first couple of weeks, I was like down and depressed, natural. And I said, okay, now I got to move forward. There's no plan B. I'm not going to go work like at my parents' store selling people chips and beer. I need to do something. So what I did is I went to the library, and think about this kind of early stages of internet. So I didn't have this and I said, I went to a speech pathologist, the department there, and I said, I want to eliminate my accent. I want to sound more like this. And I took some recordings of people, and they said, well, that's like, here's some books. So I literally spent the entire summer after I graduated doing thousands of hours of accent elimination training. So I did words like, or sayings like rubber baby buggy bumpers, rubber baby buggy bumpers. I repeated that thousands of times. She sells by the she-store. All these sayings and, tongue twisters that would help me eliminate my accent. And I learned other things like interview approaches, how to mirror, all these things that will give me some kind of an advantage. And I went back the next year, and I was lucky enough to earn a job at Bain & Company, which then launched my career, and I'm very grateful to them. But I will tell you, for me, that was an experience where I thought, I did everything you told me I was supposed to do, Mom and Dad, and it didn't work out. What do I do now? What do I do now? And that, for me, is the seminal moment, in my opinion, in my life, where I had to pick myself back up on the biggest disappointment that I ever had.
Very interesting. So when I left Kenya, my mom told me, you don't have an option to come back. And she said, when things get really tough, find your way to church and go hide there. Meaning go congregate with Christian fellowship, because that way you'll have some kind of peace, some kind of belonging. For you, things get really tough. Who do you congregate with?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I will say that there's a few things. One is when you're the CEO of a company, it's a very lonely place. I'm lucky that I have a good group of very tight peers, particularly a couple of friends that I can go to and talk about personal issues as well, right? Life issues, like events that happen, family, and so that's like for me where I go to. Your ability to find something in a more spiritual sense is something that I think is a blessing for you. I think I'm still looking for it. I think my excuse, and it's a terrible one, is that I've been just so busy that I haven't invested in that aspect of my life. You're just so busy, and everybody is a work colleague or a potential contact. You have a few close friends that you lean on, but you need that.
What has changed from when you started as in the workplace as an employee to now having owned several companies, had a major exit, and now you're pushing forward Numa? What have you learned over time that changed in the way of how you see life in comparison to what you learned from observing your parents?
Yeah, so I think there's a few things. Is I think first and foremost for me, I take a great obligation. I would say my biggest obligation is to the people that are employed at my company Numa. That's we're over 150 people now. That's 150 families that depend on leadership, like my leadership as chief executive, to help them put food on their table, pay their mortgages and rent and all that. So deeply in it, because my experience being kind of from a Greek family, I mean, similar to kind of Kenyan, where family is just so important. That these people are, their family, and so having not just a top line business success that shareholders are happy with, but making sure that everybody in the organization is winning and succeeding, not just economically, but personal growth is a big part of our culture here. For me, that is kind of part of my evolution. I get like when I sold the first company, I think the happiest moments wasn't when the financial exit happened for me. And it's going to sound off me saying this, but the truth is, when I sat down and I told some of my engineers that had been with me from the beginning, what their outcome was going to be, and to see them like cry and get up and dance and hug me, and then I talk to their spouses afterwards, and their spouses are hugging me, like that to me is a journey we did together that changed their lives. Yes, financially, but that's where the real reward is, because you're like the journey with the people you take it with is just so much more rewarding than the outcome at the end. So that to me is like foundational, really foundational. I think for me as a leader, like I know every person in the company, and I sincerely care about them and want them to win. I think that, and I'm not sure how much of that is, kind of like, how my parents raised me and stuff, but I wasn't raised just to be a businessman that is like just maximizing shareholder value. There needs to be an ethos and a culture in the organization. Otherwise, I don't want to be a part of it. It's not about maximizing profit. It's about building something generational together that we tell our grandkids about, and the journey and the ups and downs.
I am glad, Tasso, you went there. So let's talk about ethos and culture, especially in the early days of an organization.
I think there's different phases. In the beginning, you are just trying to make it to the next month or the next milestone. So it is all about survival. It is about just making, like razor focus on hitting milestones, on the next product, that next customer. So that when you're a small team and you're in one office is very like, I don't want to say culture is easy, but it's obvious. It is a little bit easy, because if you're not attacking the same goal, you don't have your eyes on the same crosshairs, then you don't belong and you're going to leave. Okay, so everybody's focused on one goal, which is hitting that next milestone. Everybody's working really hard. When you take that next level, and you're hiring people where it's not, they weren't part of the founding team. How you build that, and how you kind of not just sustain the the advantage, the alpha, that work ethic, that drive in the organization, but how you build the individual as well to kind of be part of that, I think is what I believe is important in culture, and in the organization. So for us, there's two core values I'm gonna call out that we have in our organization. Um, the the first one is, we call it win as a phalanx. And win as a phalanx, an ancient military formation where you would line up, and the shield, um, you'd have your sword and your shield. Your shield would protect the person next to you, not you. So everybody was bound together. So there's two concepts of the win as a phalanx. The first is like, we're playing to win. We're in the arena. People want to take us out. I mean, that we should not dismiss that. It is not about, flowers. It is about like achieving a goal and somebody wants to stop you. That's the competitive, capitalist environment. You need to have a better product to win. You need to be better to win. And that results in gains for consumers and customers. So you have to be, but then how you do it and how you watch, how you take care of your brother or your sister on the other side, and the way that manifests itself at our company is we look for people that step in and help out a teammate when it wasn't their job and the boss wasn't looking, when the spotlight wasn't on you. Okay, that's the single most core value that we have here at Numa. In fact, the gentleman, my VP of sales at the company, started off as a salesperson. I always call him out. His name is Monty. He's an amazing human being, most amazing human beings I've ever met. He was training salespeople when he was a salesperson, and he was just making the team better. Nobody knew he was even doing it, and he ascended. So that, like those stories and finding those people, you always want to find these core, and you see them and you know them and you love them. They're amazing. Monty's one example of this win as a phalanx. The other thing, which is more about the individual, I think it's really important to invest in the individual, to know that you care about them. It's a very sincere. If we sincerely care about you, we have to show you that as well. One of our other core values is based off of an ancient Greek term called Arete. It's Arete in Greek, but Arete, Arete. And we're looking for people that want to be great. They want to invest in themselves. They want to get 1% better every day. They're looking to achieve something where it's not just a job. When they wake up in the morning, they're like, I'm going to do something really good today. I'm going to get better today. I have ambitions to become something special. And that for us is really, really important, because we're looking for those kinds of people. And in a startup, people that are like that are going to rub off on other folks. And it's such an important core value for every human, in my opinion, that we invest heavily in it.
Yeah, so I think everybody I've met at some point, even those who are not entrepreneurs, they say, I have this great business idea. Majority of them do not attempt to bring the business idea to the marketplace. So when do you know your idea is a great business idea, and what does bringing that idea to the marketplace look like?
Okay, got it. So I think there's a few things. One is, and Bill Gurley just wrote a really good book from Benchmark Capital, and one of the key components of it, which I thought was really awesome, is the number one. So regret is the most painful thing human beings face later on in life. Nobody ever regrets taking a risk or trying a business, but people regret, and it definitely impacts their psychology if they didn't take the risks when they should have. There's like deep regret of not trying something, of not attempting. It's like, hey, I could have been great, but I didn't try. So from my perspective, is the first thing is like, we're wired to be conservative as humans, but we don't live in a dangerous world anymore. You're not gonna, there's not a saber-toothed tiger that's gonna pounce on you, the next. So you can take more risks. So that's the first thing, which is like, first of all, you have a great business idea. It might be a good business, it might not be a good business idea, but give it a try. You'll have no regrets if you give it a try, for a few reasons. Number one is, your initial idea might not be great, but when you test it out in the market, you're probably going to find out, when you speak to customers, what might be a great idea, and you can continue to, from an empiricist perspective, continue to tweak and learn and incrementalize your way to a great idea. That's the first thing. So you got to give it a shot. And then, I would say that the learnings you get from trying something on your own, which again, as immigrants, we always have to, we're always like, we're trying to figure out on our own, like we don't know. That learning is going to be much better than getting a job where, whether you do a great job or a mediocre job, it doesn't really matter. Because everything that you do has stakes to it, has consequences. If you don't make that phone call, you don't have a chance to get that customer. So you're going to make that phone call. You learn how to sell. You learn how to position your product. You change your product. You have to go back and you have to change your product within like hours. It's not like you're sitting in a corporate job where, yep, we'll fix that feature or we'll build that feature. We're going to build it 6 months out. So your learning is so high. So you should just go for it. Okay, especially if your early stage in your career and there's not as many kind of financial obligations you have. You should do it. You should go for it because you will regret.
Very interesting. So in the African culture, and I want to say in all cultures, and sometimes some people have come back and they're like, Mark, when you said African culture, do you realize we're all very different? Yes, I do. But there's this common view from multiple African cultures that a child is raised by the village or by the community, right? And so if I take that analogy and bring it into business, when you have this beautiful idea that has a moat to it and it will significantly impact your target audience, it will significantly impact humanity, talk to us from the perspective of your immediate village, right? How do you go about recruiting and looking for investment to develop your idea and to bring it to the marketplace?
Yeah. So I think in terms of your village, your family, your close group of people. So for me, that village for me was for folks that I've worked at Bain & Company when I started my first company. So I think in many ways you build up to it. Okay. So I remember the first dollars, the first seed capital of $250,000 that I raised. I had a conversation with somebody I worked with, one of my bosses at Bain. I said, I'm doing a company and here's what I want to do. And he immediately said, hey, I know a couple things about you, which is you're going to work really hard and you're going to fight to win. I don't know what your idea is, but I run a seed group with my business school classmates, and we're going to send you $250,000 in a week. Okay, so that was rooted in people that had worked with me and knew that I was going to work really hard and I was going to fight to win, and that the dollar that I'm taking from somebody who's part of my village, part of my family, I'm personally responsible for, and I really feel that way. And that's kind of the core. And I think John Close was his name, the person that invested in me, knew that. When I take money from somebody, and this is an important thing I think people know, or I need help from somebody, it is personal. It is a personal loan, and if my business fails, I owe you that money back. I owe you something back. That obligation rests with me, and I think having that mindset is really important when you look somebody. Hey, look, I'm going to work my tail off for this, and I'm going to fight to win. And this is a personally think of this. I will personally make sure that you make money, or I will pay you back. This kind of implicit. People respect that. They know that you're part of the community. It's probably implicit in a lot of ways, but you need to show that.
Let me go back to Location Labs. When you started Location Labs, you had a seed investment, but prior to that, you had 7 years of success. And researching you, it seemed like in those 7 years you were continually growing. So what were some of the values that you discovered very early on that you needed to have in your organization to be able to build those pillars that graduated your success from one year to the other?
Yeah. I think the first thing I would say is that in that startup environment, that every day matters. You need to make progress and leaps and bounds, if you will, every day, every single week. Okay, you're not the market is not going to come to you. You have to go out and seize it. You have to be talking to customers. You have to be building products very fast and getting market feedback. So nothing's going to come to you. You have to go out and grab and seize. That's that for me is the single most important thing that when you make this this leap.
Tasso, hold that thought for me because I know you're about to get into it, but hold that thought because I have to ask this. You
Yeah.
remember we talked earlier about knowing you have a good idea that you want to bring it into the marketplace. That does not necessarily that there is a demand for that product. It may be a great idea, but there may not be a demand. How do you establish that there is a demand for that product so that you can continue to spend time on it?
Okay, got it. So I think what you asked was you have an idea, you're trying to figure out if there's demand. What are the signals, if you will, that determine if you have something. So there's a few things. First is I think you need to be able to understand how people react to your product. So part of it is the standard, like, hey, I gave you the product and they're using it a lot. Okay, that's fine. But you offer something and then you say, I'm going to take this away from you. If you take a product away from somebody, they say, okay, thanks for letting me use it. It was a nice product. Or do they say, no, 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 no. Like, I need that product. I can't live without that product. Okay, that's the strongest signal. Threatening to take a product, you give somebody something and then you take it away. If they're okay with you taking it away, then you didn't really have something. If they fight you and want to keep it, that's the number one signal. Another way to do this is you start charging. You say, like, look, yep, I've got to charge you. And they say, yep, happy to pay you. Happy to pay you, by the way. Not just like, okay, well, I'll pay you, but I'm not really like sure, about this in the long run. That's it. It's like, I'm happy to pay you.
Yeah,
I'm happy to pay you.
very interesting. So, do you mind if we pivot a little bit and let's look at Noma? Where is Noma at today? And how do you see your enterprise at the moment changing?
So, we're the leading provider in our vertical category of dealership in providing this kind of AI solution that helps these companies run their business. Right, we're going to be doing a lot of running businesses for our dealership customers and partners. So we're over 150, approaching 200 people right now. Our company, we've raised kind of capital from fantastic investors who we've worked with in the past. So a lot is happening fast, but in an AI native world, I would say that every single day you come to work, something might happen that can completely disrupt your business. So the single most important characteristic to have right now as a founder or as a CEO running a company is this concept of anti-fragility, which again, I think is kind of a core value that immigrants we face, because the rug will be pulled from underneath you, guaranteed. How are you able to manage yourself is where the winners are determined. So we approach every day as a new day. So there might be a new model that's launched which completely disrupts us. What are we going to do? How are we going to adapt? So from one perspective, we see a $1.2 trillion industry that's going to be re-architected in terms of how it runs, and that's really exciting to us. We also know that the changes happen 10x faster than they used to happen. So we need to be thinking in that mindset.
A friend of mine many years ago told me, for you to run an excellent business, you need to start thinking what the changes will look like 10 years from today and implement those changes today. In the world where AI is in the marketplace, entrenched in everything that we do in today's life, for me, it's really exciting and in some aspects scary, right? Scary because, like you said, things are changing really quickly. And so you're concerned, are you doing the right things to serve your customers better? And when it comes to AI, are we interacting it really well so that your teams can continue to thrive? Or are you utilizing not just the wrong platforms, but also the wrong tools? For small business immigrants that are out there that are struggling with AI for one reason or the other, if you're speaking in a room with them, how would you ask them to look at AI and integrating it not just in their business, but also in their lifestyles?
Yeah. So I think that, and man, if there's a seminar or a course you can teach, because I think AI is the great equalizer. So for all the inherent toughness, advantages, this kind of hustle that we have as immigrants, if you can level me up by giving me information-based access to tools that allow me to have the same beyond parallel with other people that have earned these advantages through kind of their upbringing, that's that's a superpower. If I can now use AI to make, I already had to be 10x better. Now AI makes us the same, and I can use my skills with AI to be 10x better than somebody else. I think it's a great equalizer. I think AI for immigrant entrepreneurs is an amplifier, and will just make them stronger. And like, look, when you see, I mentioned earlier, 80% of the AI startups in Silicon Valley in the United States, the ones that have gotten funded, the ones that are rebuilding this entire economy, 80% of them, there's a New York Times article, are founded by immigrants. Why? Because we see the monster opportunity and we adapt very quickly. AI is about adaptability. So I think immigrants are going to be able to adapt very fast, even small business ones. Like you can imagine, like I know with my parents, for example, right? Like a similar situation today, that, a 16-year-old Tasso would tell his parents that, Mom and Dad, we're going to be on Claude. We're going to pay this subscription, but trust me, our business is going to be better. And maybe we're going to expand. Maybe we should buy more businesses and do this and do that.
Very good. Tasso, please tell our listeners where they can find you on social media, please.
Okay, yeah. So I'm on Twitter. I'm at Tasso R, Tassor is my handle there, and then you can find me on LinkedIn as well.
Fantastic. So if we met in an elevator, we had 2 minutes to kind of chat before we get on the 60th floor, what's the one thing you'd want me to take away from you?
Sure. So I think the let's see. So what one like you want me to some content, right? Not an actual, because I want to make sure I'm not an actual gift. All right, I'll give you a gift, but
yeah, sure.
You'll take whatever. Okay, fantastic. I think I think for me is that being an immigrant is a blessing. The fact that there's no plan B, like your mom told you, you're staying there and you're going to make it work. That changes a person. That the immigrant advantage is really simple, right? We've already done the impossible once. We left one life behind to build another, and this like develops this instinct naturally. We enter unfamiliar environments, we learn new rules, we build new identities, and we find opportunities where others see disadvantage, and that's a blessing.
I would do immigrants a disservice if we got off this conversation without talking about failure, because for anybody who dares to dream, failure is not an optionality. I believe it's something you have to experience. So from your CEO perspective, sir, walk us through how you have found would be the best way to deal with failure.
So there's a few things, and you put it in the context of battles and wars. Okay, so failure for me is you're going to lose some battles along the way. You just are. You're going to lose some customers to competitors. It happens, but you can't lose the war. You can't lose the end output. So in today's world, we talk about, hey, failure is good. And I agree. Like, if we're testing things out and we're going to get either rejected or that's an important part of the building process. But this concept that like, hey, I failed, like, look, you're either failing forward and learning and getting better and becoming stronger and building a better product or company or skill set, or you're going backwards. And like, you shouldn't go backwards. I don't want people to use that as an excuse of like, hey, I failed. You went backwards. That's not fail. You have to fail and learn and get better because of it. Okay. So for me, my experience having to overcome accent means that I approach every interaction that I have with people. Now I'm very cognizant of how I adapt to the environment, how I interview, how I do these things, and that's now a skill for me. So I took a failure and I turned it into a strength. That's the only way to approach it. And I actually don't love the word failure. I'd rather call it learnings. You take risks and you learn. Like failure is a loaded word. I don't like that word. Okay. I tried something, I learned something from it. If you didn't learn something from it, well, why'd you do it in the first place? Okay. That's gotta be your overall mindset. But I also think that, you have to play to win. You have to know that that mindset of like, it's not about failing, it's about learning and driving yourself to win.
So as we get to the top of the hour, what is the one thing that you are currently monomaniacally obsessed about?
The obsession, from my perspective, is how we build a world-class AI native organization, which is going to look very different than what it looks like today or what it looked like 6 months ago, and how we rebuild an entire industry and keep that industry healthy, okay, in terms of job displacement and all those things. So it's a big thing, because I got a big industry. It's a $1.2 trillion industry. It's going to completely change. How I run my company is going to change. So there's two businesses I need to work with our team on to transform this kind of entire how a dealership works, and then how our company works, especially if we want to build something generational.
Very interesting, sir. You are a fascinating person, and we're really, really, really are grateful that you chose to spend the last hour with us. From all immigrants across the globe, my sincere thank you for making the time for us. Please promise me that you will come back and we can deep dive on AI, because I think there's a lot there that we did not get to today, and I would love to explore that topic.
Would love to do that, Martin. You're a gem with this podcast. You tell the best stories, in my opinion. I love the tough immigrant kids. Don't forget about the ticks.
Thank you so much. Tell you what, that's going to be my post today. All right, because I always make an effort to post a quote from an immigrant that we've just interviewed, and that right there, sir, is our quote for the day. So thank you. I appreciate it.
And happy to talk about AI anytime. We can get it more into like tactical, the future, give you my perspective, right, wrong, all that stuff. But excellent.
Absolutely. We'll work it out over time. Sir, thank you. If there is anything we can do for you, please do not hesitate to reach out to us. We'd love to serve you. Thank you again for making the time for us. Please tell our listeners where they can find you one more time on social media.
Yeah, so Tasso R, TASSOR on X, and you can find me on LinkedIn. Just look up my name.
Immigrants on Spotify at Immigrant Nation, and TikTok and Instagram Immigrant Nation, Facebook at the Immigrant Nation Podcast, LinkedIn and YouTube the Immigrant Nation Podcast. Today, here at the Immigrant Nation Podcast, we were joined by Tasso Roumeliotis, a co-founder and CEO of Numa. We wish you the very best with Numa, and if there's any way we can serve you, sir, please let us know. Thank you again for making the time to join us today, and as always, it's good to see you. Welcome.